The marble steps of the federal courthouse gleamed in the morning sun as Detective Ryan O'Connor stood at his post. Watching the crowd gather for what promised to be a high-profile hearing at 38, Ryan had seen plenty in his years on the force. But something about today felt different. The air was thick with tension, camera crews jostling for position, reporters shouting questions at anyone who walked past. That's when he saw her, a black woman in her early 40s. Dressed in an elegant tan blazer and carrying a leather briefcase, moved through the crowd with quiet determination. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, gold earrings catching the light. There was something striking about her composure. The way she held herself with such dignity despite the chaos around her. Ryan watched as she climbed the courthouse steps, her heels clicking against the stone. Officer Jake Martinez called out, stepping in front of her. "You need to use the public entrance on the side." The woman stopped, her expression calm but firm. "I'm exactly where I need to be, officer." "This entrance is restricted," Jake insisted, his voice growing louder. "You'll have to go around." Ryan noticed the crowd beginning to turn their attention toward the confrontation. Phones were already rising, cameras recording. "I have every right to use this entrance," the woman said, her voice steady and clear. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have business inside." Something in Jake's jaw tightened. Ryan had seen that look before, knew where it could lead. He moved closer, ready to intervene. "Ma'am, I'm not going to ask you again," Jake said, reaching for her arm. "You need to leave this area immediately." "Take your hand off me," she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous quiet. That's when everything went wrong. Officer Davis, a hothead with 2 years on the force, came up behind her. "She giving you trouble, Martinez?" "She refuses to comply," Jake said. Before Ryan could say anything, before he could step between them and de-escalate the situation, Davis grabbed the woman's other arm roughly. "Let go of me," she demanded. Trying to pull away, the crowd pressed closer, voices rising in protest. Ryan's stomach turned as he watched what was happening. As he saw Davis's hand rise, the slap echoed across the courthouse steps like a gunshot. The woman's head snapped to the side, her briefcase falling to the ground. For a moment, everything froze. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed, and the woman stood perfectly still, her hand slowly rising to her reddening cheek. Ryan felt sick. This was wrong, so completely wrong. "It's assault," someone in the crowd shouted. We all saw it. "She was resisting," Davis yelled back. But his voice wavered. The woman straightened, her eyes blazing with controlled fury. "Check who I am first," she said, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "And I don't care who you are," Davis sneered. "You don't belong here, Officer Davis." Ryan finally found his voice, stepping forward. "Stand down. Now." But it was too late. The courthouse doors burst open, and Chief Justice Harold Morrison appeared, his face pale with shock. Behind him came several court marshals and the district attorney. "What in God's name is happening here?" Morrison demanded. The woman picked up her briefcase with shaking hands. Never taking her eyes off Davis, "Your officers just assaulted a federal judge on the steps of her own courthouse." The words fell like stones into water, ripples of shock spreading through everyone present. Ryan felt the blood drain from his face. Jake went absolutely white. Davis stumbled backward, his bravado crumbling. "Judge Simmons," Morrison said, his voice strained. "I am so deeply sorry. This is inexcusable." Judge Diana Simmons touched her cheek again, her eyes wet but her voice steady. "I was appointed to this bench 3 months ago, Chief Justice Morrison. My face has been in every legal publication, every courthouse bulletin. These officers had no excuse for not recognizing me." She turned to look at Davis, then Jake, then finally at Ryan, who stood frozen in his own shame for not acting faster. "But even if I wasn't a judge," she continued, her voice rising with passion, "even if I was just a woman trying to enter a public building, what happened here would still be wrong. Still be illegal. Still be a violation of everything we're supposed to stand for." The crowd erupted in applause and shouts of support. Ryan watched as Davis's face went from red to gray. Jake looked like he might be sick. They'd just assaulted a federal judge, and dozens of witnesses and cameras had captured every moment. "Officers," Morrison said coldly, "you will surrender your badges and weapons immediately. Federal marshals, please escort them inside for processing." As the marshals moved forward, Diana held up her hand. "Wait," everyone stopped. She looked at Davis, really looked at him, and Ryan saw something flicker in her eyes. Not forgiveness exactly, but something deeper. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition of a teachable moment. "How long have you been on the force, Officer Davis?" she asked. 2 years, ma'am," he whispered. "And you, Officer Martinez?" 6 years, Your Honor," Jake managed. Diana nodded slowly. "I grew up in Brooklyn in the 80s. My father was a postal worker, my mother a school teacher. They taught me that respect isn't about titles or positions. It's about recognizing the humanity in every person you meet." She paused, letting her words sink in. "I became a lawyer because I believed in justice. I became a judge because I wanted to ensure fairness. But I'm standing here today with cameras recording and the world watching as a black woman was assaulted on courthouse steps for the crime of existing in a space where 2 officers decided I didn't belong." Ryan felt tears prick his eyes. He thought about his own mother, his sister, his niece. Would he want them treated this way? "Your Honor," he spoke up, his voice rough. "I was here. I saw what was happening, and I didn't act fast enough to stop it. I should have stepped in sooner." Diana turned to him, studying his face. "What's your name, officer?" "Ryan O'Connor, ma'am. You look troubled, Officer O'Connor." Your Honor, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't who I want to be." Diana nodded, then addressed the crowd. "This is a moment of choice for all of us. We can let anger consume us, or we can use this as a catalyst for real change." She looked back at Davis and Jake. "You humiliated me. You assaulted me. You violated your oaths. But I'm going to give you a choice. You can face immediate criminal charges and dismissal, or you can agree to a different path." Davis looked up, confusion and hope warring on his face. "You will complete a comprehensive training program on civil rights, implicit bias, and de-escalation. You will volunteer 100 hours in communities you've never taken the time to understand. You will write a public apology, and you will attend every session of a community dialogue series I'm establishing." "And if we refuse," Jake asked quietly, "then you face the full consequences of your actions, as you should." Morrison stepped forward. "Judge Simmons, you're being remarkably gracious." "I'm being strategic, Chief Justice. Ruining 2 careers won't change the system that taught them to see me as a threat instead of a colleague. But educating them, truly educating them, might prevent the next incident." She turned back to Davis and Jake. "What's it going to be?" They looked at each other, then back at her. "We'll do the program, Your Honor," Davis said, his voice breaking. "And I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry." "Sorry isn't enough," Diana said sharply. "But it's a start. Now get out of my sight." As the officers were led away, Diana climbed the remaining steps. At the top, she turned to face the crowd and the cameras. "My name is Judge Diana Simmons. Today I was assaulted while trying to do my job, but I'm still here. I'm still standing. And in a few minutes, I'm going to walk into that courtroom and sit on that bench, because that's where I belong." The crowd erupted in cheers. Ryan watched her disappear through the courthouse doors, then looked down at his own badge. He thought about the oath he'd taken, about the officer he wanted to be versus the officer he'd been on those steps. He made a decision. Inside the courthouse, Ryan found Morrison. "Sir, I'd like to volunteer as one of the officers for Judge Simmons's training program. And I'd like to testify about what I witnessed today if charges are filed." Morrison studied him. "That could be career suicide, O'Connor, and maybe it's the career I need to have." 3 months later, Ryan sat in a community center in Brooklyn, listening to Diana speak to a room full of officers, community members, and young people. Davis and Jake were there too, looking humbler than he'd ever seen them. Diana told her story, but she also told others. Stories of her grandmother who'd marched with King, of her father who'd faced discrimination despite his service in Vietnam, of her daughter who she worried about every time she left the house. After the session, Ryan approached her. "Judge Simmons, I wanted to thank you." "For what, Officer O'Connor?" "For showing me that justice isn't just about punishment, it's about transformation." Anna smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. "You're learning. Keep going." Ryan nodded. "I have a daughter now. I want her to grow up in a world where what happened on those steps is unthinkable, where everyone, regardless of what they look like, is treated with dignity." "Then you've got work to do, officer." "We all do." As Ryan left that evening, he thought about how one moment can change everything. How courage looks like a woman climbing courthouse steps despite knowing the cost. How justice sometimes means choosing the harder path of redemption over the easier road of revenge. He thought about Diana, sitting on her bench every day, doing her job with grace and fairness, proving that she belonged there, not through anger, but through excellence. And he thought about the officer he was becoming, shaped by a woman who refused to let hatred win, who chose to teach rather than destroy, who understood that real change happens one heart at a time. The marble steps of the courthouse still gleamed in the setting sun, but now they meant something different to Ryan. They were a reminder of how far there was to go, and how much one person's courage could illuminate the path forward. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about dignity, courage, and choosing grace over vengeance. Leave a comment telling us about a time when someone's unexpected kindness changed your perspective. Your story might inspire someone else today.